Hey there, and welcome to today's episode where we're going to talk all about how to go from super to superstar.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, I am so super excited to release today's episode. It's actually been months and months in the making. But before I spill the beans and share all the stuff I want to share, like I'm literally bursting at the seams, I wanted to read out a review from Aussie Mozzie 44. And Aussie Mozzie says, I've been listening to sales podcasts for quite some time now and have always come away with great tips and ideas for my own business. I definitely recommend adding this to your weekly business development stash. Thank you so much, Aussie Mozzie. I swear, reviews are just the bomb. Whenever I'm feeling a little bit down in the dumps or feeling a little bit stressed, I jump on over to iTunes or Stitcher and read reviews, because when you're creating a podcast, you're sitting here behind your desk talking into a microphone. There's no interaction. There's no seeing if you guys actually enjoy this stuff. And the reviews are the best way for me to understand what you love about the show and what you don't. So if you haven't already left me a review, please, I would love it if you could head over to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify, wherever you listen to the show, and leave me a review. Not only will it warm my heart, but of course, Apple or Stitcher or wherever you're listening has an algorithm as well. So the more people who leave 5-star reviews, preferably 5-star, the more independent and retail e-commerce store owners we can get off that busy work treadmill, stop hustling, and start creating scalable, profitable businesses. Now, you're probably wondering why I am so excited about today. Well, as this episode goes to air, I have just pressed go on something that my team and I have been working on for the last 6 or so months. We've spent Actually, if I'm really honest, it's been years in the making, because we have just pressed go on a simple, free, fun, and super insightful tool that will help you self-diagnose what is holding your retail or e-commerce store back. And best of all, you can do it in just a couple of minutes. Now, as I said, I pressed go on this just a few hours ago before I started recording this episode. And I have to admit that it was the weirdest experience, and I've only ever had this experience once in my life before. And what happened was I sent out an email and I posted a social media post and I put it into this retail thought leaders group. I announced that we would release this tool. And as soon as I did, my whole body started to shake and my hands were shaking, and I felt like I was going to be sick. Not like I needed to run to the toilet, but really sort of queasy and nauseous. And my whole body was affected when I pressed go. And the only ever time that has happened before, back when I sold my retail business, the exact same thing happened. I pressed go on the email and the blog post and the social media post, and I felt exactly the same way. And I think it is because I knew that was a life-changing moment for me and obviously for my business as well. And even though the team and I have been working really, really hard on this, I have to say I never really thought about it as something life-changing, but clearly, subconsciously, my whole body reacted to this thing going live. So hopefully it's going to change hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of retail and e-commerce store owners, businesses and their lives, to uncover the number one thing that is holding them back so that they can go from super to superstar. So let me ask you a question. Do you ever find yourself feeling like you are at maximum bandwidth, like maximum capacity? You just can't take on anything else. You can't, let alone do anything else. You can't even think about anything else. But then you turn back to your desk or to your table and there's a huge pile of paperwork and a list of to-do things that seem to be a mile long. And all you can think about is, I have put so much effort into this business. What am I doing wrong? Why can't I grow? Well, the good news is I don't know how good it is, but I've totally been where you are now. And I'll admit, every now and again, I still find myself back there. But when this happens, I have this saying that I say to myself, and it is the quote, "What got you here won't get you there." And when you're in that flux of overwhelm and, look, dare I say it, hustling, like really, I hate that word. You know I don't like that word. When you're in that overwhelm and activity of building a business, it is easy to be the queen of everything, or the king if you're a guy, and the master of none. And when that happens, your empire, I like to call it an empire, those dreams and the goals that keep getting you up every day to make this thing a success, during those times of overwhelm, or when you're at the bottom of the business roller coaster, or what feels like the bottom of the business roller coaster, all of those things can get lost in the noise. They get thrown out the window, and before you know it, 6, 12, sometimes 24 months have gone past, and you feel like you have been super busy, but it doesn't feel like you've moved the needle forward. Does that sound familiar to you? So if you've ever experienced that, or perhaps that's even where you are now, then imagine how you would feel if you woke up each morning smiling to yourself at this retail or e-commerce empire that you have created and thinking to yourself, I have totally got this. Not only would that constant niggling feeling of being stressed and overwhelmed be a long distant thought, but you'd also be really excited about what the future holds, wouldn't you? Being at the top of your game is all about understanding your strengths and your weaknesses and having the focus to get results. And this is something that I have tried really, really hard to overcome, because I'm one of those people who will just give everything a go. And if I don't know how to do it, I'll learn it. But sure, you can do your bookwork and you can do your marketing and you can do the hiring and you can do all those bits and pieces that come with running a business. But are those really the things that are going to build your retail or e-commerce empire? Do you ever ask yourself that? Is what I'm doing right now going to move my business forward, or is it holding me back? Instead, wouldn't you rather be scouting the world for new products, or designing your own range, or maybe just going on a holiday or hanging out with your kids? Wouldn't you love to be doing those things, all whilst your business continues to grow? I mean, for most of us, that's why we started our own business, so we could do what we want when we want, right? It'd be pretty cool to be able to scout the world for new products, or take business holidays where you can look for new products and go on holiday at the same time, or just be able to go to your kids' assembly at school and not feel like you're always saying no. So when you understand which area of your business needs attention, and honestly, it's going to change as your skills grow and your team grows and, in fact, your business grows, you can provide focus and you can provide the resources and energy into what I like to call the weak link of your business. And when you do that, you unlock accelerated growth and achieve both your business and your personal goals faster. Does that make sense? When you put the energy into the thing that is holding you back, then you get quicker results, you get faster results, and you get to move your business forward. Now, more often than not, retail and e-commerce stores fail or close because the owners have failed to realize the importance of one or more of the following 3 things. And often it is actually a combination of all 3 of them. And the first one is focus. They start a business with no idea of where they're going or how they're going to play the long game. And so as a result, they end up ping-ponging from one thing to the next, and they never get any traction. So without the focus, they don't get the traction that they need. Does that make sense? The next one is strategy. They lack the skills and the knowledge that they need to build strategies that are going to help them to grow the business. Or, and I do see this, I know it's really strange, but worse still, they think that they should know everything already, and as a result, they don't actually go and find the help that they need when they need it. They get stuck in a bubble, not necessarily out of arrogance, but usually out of fear or not wanting to look like they don't know what they're doing, so they don't actually go and get the help. So there's focus, strategy, and of course, action. So you can have all the focus in the world and you can have the best strategies in the world, but you have to take action. And this is the secret sauce. And to be fair, action should never be confused with hard work and hustle. You know this is a hustle-free zone, right? Working harder and harder with the same outcome is not the same as taking mindful, purposeful action, okay? Now, having audited and worked with hundreds of independent retail and e-commerce store owners from all parts of the world and in sectors ranging from solar hot water systems to social enterprises and from homewares to luxury horse riding tack, I have had this unique advantage of being able to look behind the scenes and analyze exactly what happens to these businesses. And behind the gloss of social media and those slick websites, regardless of whether they're turning over $20,000 or $2 million, every single retail and e-commerce store owner has a weak link. And that weak link is costing them time, it's costing them money, and it's costing them resources. These weak links can be obvious or they can be subtle, and sometimes what appears on the surface as one pillar. So I'm going to explain the pillars to you in a minute, but sometimes what you think is the problem, when you peel back the layers, the weak link is something totally different. And this is where this new free tool that we've developed is going to come into play, because it's going to help you to identify which is the pillar that is the weak link. So what exactly are these pillars and how do they manifest themselves in your retail or e-commerce business? And what do you do to tackle those obstacles that are holding you back? Well, before I jump into the super meaty part of this episode, I wanted to let you know that you are not in this alone. I know how frustrating it can be to put your heart and soul into your business only to feel like it's 5 steps forward and 6 steps back. So I've distilled everything that I know into a super fun and easy quiz that is going to uncover the number one thing that is holding you back from retail success. And it's going to help you to go from super to superstar. You can take the quiz for free over at selenaknight.com/quiz. And I will pop a link in the show notes to this quiz because honestly, it is going to change your life. Okay, so let's jump into understanding the 5 pillars of retail success so that you can unlock that number one thing that is holding you back from going from super, which is where you are now, to superstar. The first pillar that often trips up most business owners is the money pillar. And I truly believe that if you don't nail this one, then all of the work that you put in is like throwing spaghetti at the wall and just hoping something sticks. So even though it's called the money pillar, it's not necessarily about making money. It's about understanding the money in your business, where it goes, where it comes from, what you have to buy with it, what you have to do with it, what you have to spend it on, how much profit you're making, all those kinds of things. And if money is the pillar that you need to work on, some of the ways that it might manifest itself in your business are, and tell me, do any of these sound familiar? The thought of opening your bank statement sends you into a mild panic attack. In fact, you probably have a stack of bank statements sitting in the corner unopened. Or you're riding what I like to call the cash flow roller coaster with absolutely no idea if you're doing well or not. You just hope that there's money in the bank at the end of the month. And most of your decisions are being made reactively based on how much money is in the bank, not through hard data or facts or figures. And if you are really honest with yourself, you really do treat your business like another child or baby, putting so much time and effort and emotion into making it amazing, but not holding it accountable. The money pillar is all about understanding the financial position of your business. And when the money pillar is your weakest link, it's a perpetually stressful and fearful way of running your business. But I'm here to tell you that not all is lost. The money pillar is actually one of the easiest to conquer. By pulling up your big girl pants and diving headfirst into how your business operates, that's all it takes. Now, it's often easy to confuse the money pillar with the next pillar, which is sales. And where the money pillar is around business processes, sales is about making the money. Let me tell you a little story about Meg. Meg owns a homeware store, and when I first started working with her, she was desperate to get more people into her gorgeous store. It was absolutely beautiful, and it was in a super swanky suburb. Try saying that fast 3 times. But she couldn't understand why the revenue that she was bringing in didn't seem to equate to all of the effort that she was putting in. She was constantly trying to drive more customers to her store, and some days were red hot and the cash register just didn't seem to stop ringing. But other days, she was often lucky to see a sale. Sometimes she'd have days with no sales whatsoever. Now, have you ever found yourself scratching your head wondering why your customers just don't buy? People are coming in the door or they're visiting your website, but the sales just don't seem to be coming in. And so you think to yourself things like, maybe my products are too expensive. Maybe I just don't have enough products in my store. All of these things that you start thinking, and if the sales pillar is the issue for you, I'm sure that this is all ringing true. When this happens, you lead to this vicious cycle of having lots of sales and promotions because you need the cash flow. Now, Meg thought the same thing, but actually, when we did some digging, Meg's biggest issue was that she had more than enough customers coming in the door, but the problem was one of her team members. Also, the other problem, this team member was also her cousin. And this person just made no effort to sell to customers. When customers came in, she'd just sit behind the counter. She would make no effort to upsell or cross-sell. In fact, quite often she would say to people, you could get that cheaper at Kmart. Now, you're probably shaking your head, right? But this happens. So having problems with your sales pillar, having that as a weak link, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are the problem. It means that sales are the weakest link in your business. Now, coincidentally, Meg's cousin was also in charge of organizing the store promotions. And you guessed it, when we dug in a little bit deeper, they were always half-assed and they never really did convert because no one was putting in all of the effort that needed to be done. Now, the sales pillar covers things like direct selling. So if you're in a retail store, selling face-to-face to customers, or if you have an e-commerce store, the selling part is things like your product descriptions or cross-promoting or making sure that whoever's manning your live chat knows about the products. It also covers things like conversion rates and promotions and upsells and cross-sells, anything that makes you money. So if the sales is the pillar that you need to work on, it's time to embrace this concept that people actually want to buy from you, and selling to them is actually doing them a favor. You are not being a highway robber if somebody pays you to buy the stuff that you're selling. This is why you're in business. After all, you don't want your customers to get into the habit of thinking that you're discounting, right? I have another friend, a gorgeous, beautiful person who is a maker, and she sells her products way too cheap. And she does it because she thinks, well, I wouldn't buy it if it was that expensive. The problem is she is always out of stock. She can't keep up with demand. So after much coaching, she's finally lifted her prices up. So sales was her problem because she didn't feel like her products were worth the amount of money that people were prepared to pay. And when the sales pillar is your weakest link, you have to make a very brave decision to step off the hamster wheel of juggling all the things and hoping that a few posts on social media or maybe an email or two and a picture on your homepage is going to give you a massive influx of sales. You have to follow this up by limiting discounting or undercharging. You have to have a long-term plan for your promotions and your specials rather than just offering 20% off every time you have to pay the electricity bill. And you have to narrow your focus. You have to stop trying to be all things to all people. 50 awesome items are way better than 200 mediocre ones that take up room and cash flow and aren't necessarily what your ultimate customer comes to your retail store or your website looking for. If you can't embrace the concept of selling, then it is a slippery slope to closing up shop. Okay, I know that's really hard to hear sometimes, but you're in retail and you have to sell if you want to survive. Okay, so far we've covered the money pillar, which was all about understanding money in your business, and the sales pillar, which is all about making money. So let's jump to the next one. The next one is the customer pillar. And this one can be a little tricky to diagnose because you may be doing well in some areas like customer acquisition or driving people back to your store or to your website. But if customer experience is lacking or your customer retention is poor, then the customer pillar may be your weakest link. If you've ever caught yourself saying, everybody tells us how great our store is or how wonderful our products are, we just need more of those. Or perhaps you've said something like, our sales are really great, but oh my gosh, our customers do nothing but complain. If you ever heard yourself saying anything like that, then it is time to check the foundations of your customer pillar. Let me tell you about Katie. I met Katie at one of my live workshops, and when I was chatting to her in the break, she was telling me about how she spent several hours every single night after she put the baby to bed, DMing her new followers on Instagram with a discount code. Katie was spending nearly her whole day posting on social media, trying to bring in new followers, but once she had them, once she's managed to convert them to a customer, they just didn't come back. It was crickets because she was spending so much time on customer acquisition and juggling the running of business with being a new mum with a baby. It would often take her a couple of days to pack orders. And Katie had no customer retention funnel in place. So even though the customer acquisition was great, customers were getting annoyed at how long it was taking for their orders to be dispatched and for them to get their products. And then there was nothing to make them come back and buy from them again. It was costing so much time and energy for Katie to get more and more new customers. Now, I love this quote by Brian Eisenberg, and he says, "It is much easier to double your business by doubling your conversion rate than by doubling your traffic." So basically what he's saying, it is much easier to make more money just by getting more people to buy rather than trying to send twice as many people to your website. Now, maybe you are all over customer experience. Your website is super sleek, your store looks great, and perhaps you even have a customer funnel in place. But if you ever find yourself thinking, if we just had more customers, then one part of the customer pillar, and in this case it would be customer acquisition, it isn't quite as strong as it should be. And customer acquisition is the perfect segue to the next pillar, which is marketing. Whether it's paid marketing, so your Google ads, your Facebook ads, Instagram ads, that kind of thing, or organic marketing, so posting on social media or using word of mouth referrals, whether it's in-store or to your website, you know by now that you have to be actively marketing your business and your products in order to grow. But so often, I see retail and e-commerce store owners not spending enough money on marketing because they believe that they don't have the cash flow. But it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? If you aren't marketing, you aren't driving customers and traffic to your store or to your website, which means you can't make any sales. Hopefully this is all making sense. Or sometimes they just rely on word of mouth because it is super effective. They don't believe that they need to do any real marketing, and I say that in air quotes, because up until now, their customers have done it all for them. And I recently worked with a bespoke retailer who had been in business for over 20 years. They've never done any active marketing. But in the past few years, they've seen a market decline in their customers, in their orders, and ultimately their cash flow. And the main reason, it really wasn't hard for me to work this out, all I had to do was a bit of digging, was that their main competitor, started actively marketing their business on multiple channels. Search Google, and there was their competitor. And of course, once you've clicked the Google ad and you've headed over to their website, they had ads going to retarget you on social media. Super effective campaign, even though the copy and the pictures weren't very great. But with an average order value in the thousands of dollars, you can see that the loss of even a few customers could be devastating for a business. And this is what happens when you aren't continuously marketing your business and your products. But sometimes it works into the opposite extreme, with retail and e-commerce store owners spending thousands of dollars on marketing every single month because they know that they should. The downside of that is they don't actually have any idea if it's working. And I see this all the time with people who are working with agencies to do their pay-per-click advertising, so their Google ads or their Facebook ads. They're spending the money, but they aren't actually tracking whether they get a return on investment. Or probably the one I see most often, and you'll understand why, is relying way too heavily on social media because it's free. Like Katie was earlier, using social media just to get customers, just DMing all of her new followers. I see people using social media to do all of their marketing because they think it's not costing them money. But it is. It's costing you time and energy. And can you actually measure the return on investment of all the hours that you're putting in? Now, regardless of which bucket you might fall into, it is easy to end up thinking that marketing doesn't work or that you just don't need it. But if you want to grow into a scalable, profitable business, then marketing has to be on your list. And the 2 tips I have for you when it comes to marketing is, number 1, always make sure that you are using more than one channel. Don't put all of your eggs in someone else's basket. And I particularly mean this for social media. And number 2, don't forget that buying, in inverted commas, customers can be a really cheap, easy, and highly profitable way to grow your business. So using paid advertising to market your business is going to give you customers. You are buying customers. Don't discount it. And yes, my pun was fully intended there. Now, I'm totally full of dad jokes. My daughter tells me all the time. Now, the final pillar, and the one that can seriously grow your brand, is what I like to call influence. And your first thought when I said that was probably like an Instagram influencer, right? Well, I don't mean that you have to be a social media darling to conquer the influence pillar. You do quite often, however, need to get out of your own comfort zone. And the influence pillar is all about becoming a niche leader. It's when you truly do get that ever-elusive brand awareness that everyone is so often seeking. But whilst influence can grow your business, it can also be detrimental if your business isn't ready for that growth. Take one product brand that I worked with who desperately wanted to get into a chain store. They had spent years adapting their product and pitching to a big box store. But once I looked into their business, they were simply not capable of being able to deliver if that chain of stores put an order in. They didn't have the staff, they didn't have the systems, and their lead times hadn't been negotiated in advance with their manufacturers. So if that big box store would have put an order in where they were right there in their business, it actually would have ended up losing them money because they would have had to pay penalties by not being able to produce on time. And then the damage to their brand, that would have taken years to shake off. And I say damage to their brand in a sense that no other big box stores would take them on. But if every time you scroll through your social media and you see your competitors' latest efforts being featured on Forbes or speaking at a conference or even a spot on the 6 p.m. news, and you get that instant pang of, not again, then this might just be the pillar that needs your focus. Now, studies show that when we do focus, we can accomplish tasks up to 10 times faster than if we move from one thing to the next before finishing it. So they call this a focus deficit, the amount of time that it takes your brain to rewire itself between the tasks that you're doing. So you can have horizontal task, which is doing, say, step 1. So you've got 5 different tasks. And instead of going step 1 of task 1, step 1 of task 2, step 1 of task 3, you get the picture, you end up just doing all of task 1. Now, when you do all of task 1, rather than doing step 1 of each of those tasks, you can get those tasks accomplished up to 10 times faster. Now, Cal Newport, he's a researcher and a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. He wrote a whole book about focus called Deep Work. And this, I have to say, this has only just come to my attention. I heard all about Cal on a podcast and I was like, OMG, this dude wrote a book about the whole system that I've been developing over the past few years. So clearly we are aligned. But Cal says, our ability to focus without distraction is becoming increasingly rare due primarily to distracting technology. At the same time, it's becoming increasingly valuable as the knowledge economy becomes more cognitively demanding. As a result, those individuals and organizations who cultivate their ability to perform deep work, that's focusing on a task and getting it done, will enjoy a major competitive advantage. Let me just say that again. The individuals and organizations who cultivate their ability to perform deep work, so who focus, will enjoy a major competitive advantage. And it is that competitive advantage that I want to be able to give you. Being able to uncover that weak link in your business so that you can focus on mastering it, that is going to move your business forward way faster and with so much less stress than just ping-ponging from one thing to the next. So my team and I gathered together over decades of experience and data from hundreds of independent retail and e-commerce store owners, and we did a lot of research. And then we put it all together. We worked backwards to create this simple, free, fun, and insightful tool that will help you self-diagnose what's holding your retail or e-commerce store back in less time than it takes to boil the kettle. So this fun, free quiz is going to help you unlock that weak link so that you can focus and you can get that competitive advantage by focusing and mastering that weak link and then moving on to the next one. There's always going to be a weak link. You're never ever in business going to have all of these things mastered. As your business grows, things will change. As your team grows, things will change. Heck, as you grow, things will change. So you're always going to have a weak link. It's just understanding what that is right now for your business so that you can focus on it. So if it feels like your business has plateaued or stalled or maybe even never really gotten off the ground, or you feel like you can't get beyond where you're at now, no matter how hard you try, or if you don't know what to do next or what to try first, and if you ever feel like there's not enough hours in the day or cells left in your brain, that tends to be my problem, to tackle everything, then you totally want to give this a go. You can take the quiz for free over at selinaknight.com/quiz, and I will pop a link in the show notes. It'll only take you a couple of minutes. So that's just a few highly productive minutes of your day. You can do it while you're waiting in line for coffee, and the result that you get at the end might just change the future of your business and even your life. What have you got to lose, right? Once you've taken the quiz, be sure to let me know what your result is. Click the show notes to leave a comment over on the website or hit me up on social media and let me know which one of the pillars is your weakest link and what are you going to do to take that focused, strategic action so you can conquer that obstacle and get that competitive advantage. That link again is selinaknight.com/quiz. And like I said, I'll pop it in the show notes for you. I can't wait to see what your results are. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.